You ever notice how the conversations that matter most are usually the ones we avoid the longest? Think about it. How many times have you carried something inside of you for days, weeks, even months, because you were too afraid of what might happen if you said it out loud? You replay it in your head, you rehearse it in the shower, you imagine how it might go. And yet, when the moment comes, it never comes out the way you pictured. And when it finally does come out, it comes out wrong. Too sharp, too blunt, too late. It doesn't land the way you meant. Instead of connection, there's confusion. Instead of resolution, there's regret. And that right there is the heart of why hard conversations feel so heavy, because we attach this enormous pressure to them. We build them up in our minds as these do or die moments, like if we don't nail it perfectly, the relationship will break, the opportunity will vanish, or the person will walk away. We think we have to get it all right in one go, like some kind of emotional final exam. And you know what happens when we treat conversations like final exams? We freeze, or we cram, or we fail. I want to tell you something. You don't botch hard conversations because you're a bad communicator. You botch them because you haven't been taught what's really going on underneath. Nobody sat us down in school and said, hey, here's how you confront someone without losing your cool. Here's how you bring up an issue without making the other person defensive. Here's how you actually get heard without shouting. We didn't learn that in math class, right? So what do we do instead? We wing it. We copy what we saw growing up. We repeat what we've absorbed in arguments and dramas and movies, and then we wonder why it keeps going sideways. Here's the first mistake we make. We walk into these conversations with the wrong objective. We walk in trying to win. And you know exactly what I mean. You go into that talk ready to drop evidence, ready to make your case, ready to show the other person just how wrong they are. You've got your examples lined up like bullets in a chamber. Remember when you said this. Remember when you did that. Remember how you always, and you're ready to fire. And here's the thing, in that moment, you feel justified. You feel like, if I don't prove my point, they'll never take me seriously. But let me ask you, how many times have you actually won a conversation like that? How many times did someone walk away saying, wow, you really buried me under your arguments. Thank you for proving me wrong. I feel so close to you right now. Never. That doesn't happen because a hard conversation is not a courtroom. You're not a lawyer. You're not a judge. You're not on trial. You're a human being who wants to be understood. And the second you turn it into a courtroom, you've already lost because nobody likes to be cross-examined in their own living room. See, when your goal is to win, the other person's instinct is to defend. Their ears stop listening and their mouth starts planning its counterattack. It's not even about truth anymore. It's about survival. And when two people are locked in survival mode, nobody's actually connecting. And if you're not connecting, then the whole point of the conversation is lost. Let me give you an example. Let's say you need to talk to your partner about something that's bothering you. Maybe they've been spending more time at work, or maybe they've been distant. If you walk into that talk with a win mindset, it sounds like this, you never make time for me. You don't care about this relationship. You're always choosing work over me. Now, are those feelings real? Absolutely. But the delivery, that's an attack. And what happens when someone feels attacked? They don't lean in, they push back. They say, that's not true. I do care. I've been busy because of X, Y, Z. And before you know it, you're arguing about details instead of dealing with the actual issue, which was you feeling neglected. Now flip that. Imagine if instead of trying to win, your goal was to connect. It might sound like this. Lately, I've been feeling a little invisible. I know you've had a lot going on with work, and I respect that, but I've also been missing our time together. I just need you to know that I'm feeling that distance. Notice the difference. One is an attack, the other is an invitation. One shuts the door, the other cracks it open. And that's the shift. We don't botch conversations because we don't care. We botch them because we walk in aiming for victory instead of connection. Think about the last time you went into a conversation with that lawyer mentality. Did it make you feel closer to the person? Or did it leave you more frustrated? And think about the last time someone came at you like that. Did you actually hear them? Or were you too busy defending yourself? That's the trap. Winning makes you feel powerful in the moment, but connection is what creates power long term. And this is where people usually ask me, well, Jefferson, does that mean I just let them off the hook? Does that mean I don't stand up for myself? No. Connection doesn't mean caving. It means leading with your humanity instead of your pride. It means choosing to express instead of accuse. It means remembering that the person across from you is not your opponent. They're your partner, your friend, your coworker, someone you want to keep a relationship with, not someone you're trying to destroy. Here's the truth. Winning gives you the last word, but connecting gives you the next conversation. And if you want real growth, if you want real intimacy, if you want real progress, you don't need the last word, you need the next conversation. And that brings me to the second big reason we botch hard conversations. We wait until we're at our boiling point. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You bite your tongue, you bury your frustration, you tell yourself it's not a big deal. I don't want to cause conflict. I'll just let it go. But you don't let it go, you just let it pile up. And the pile gets heavier and heavier until one day, the tiniest thing tips it over and all that buried emotion comes crashing down. And when it comes down, it doesn't come out as calm, rational words. It comes out as an explosion. You ever had that moment where you planned to have a calm, mature talk, but the second you opened your mouth, it turned into something else entirely? Your voice got louder, your tone got sharper, maybe even your tears showed up out of nowhere. And then afterward, you sit there thinking, that's not what I wanted to say. That's not how I wanted it to go. That's what happens when you wait too long. Pressure always finds a release. If you don't release it in small doses through honest, timely conversations, it will release itself in ways you don't control. And here's the kicker. When you explode, it confuses the other person. They're sitting there thinking, whoa, where is all this coming from? I thought we were fine yesterday. And now, instead of addressing the issue, you're both stuck dealing with the emotional fallout of the explosion. They're defensive, you're drained, and the actual problem gets buried even deeper. Think of it like a pressure cooker. If you don't let the steam out gradually, it builds until it blows. And when it blows, it doesn't just ruin dinner, it can make a mess of your whole kitchen. Conversations are the same. If you wait until resentment is boiling, you're not having a conversation anymore, you're having a confrontation. And confrontation rarely heals. Let's be real for a second. How many times has someone been talking to you, your partner, your boss, your friend, and you're nodding, you're giving the yeah, but in your head, you're not really hearing them. You're thinking about what you're gonna say next. You're waiting for the pause so you can jump in. You're crafting the perfect rebuttal. And then when it's finally your turn, you pounce. You hit them with your side, your truth, your angle. And then you wonder why they don't feel heard. It's like playing catch. But instead of actually catching the ball, you just hold your own ball, waiting for your turn to throw it back. That's not catch. That's two people standing in the same yard, throwing at the same time, and missing each other entirely. That's what most of our hard conversations look like. Two people talking, but nobody catching, nobody receiving, nobody really hearing. And here's the part that stings a little. We all want to be heard, but so few of us are willing to do the hearing first. We think, I'll listen when they listen to me, But conversations don't work like that. Somebody has to go first. Somebody has to put down their weapon, set aside their defense, and give the gift of presence. And presence is powerful. Presence changes the energy of the room. Presence communicates what your words cannot, that you respect this person enough to give them your undivided attention. You know why listening feels so rare? Because it is. Think about how often in your daily life you feel truly heard. Not just, but heard. Where someone slows down, looks you in the eye, asks you questions, reflects back what you're saying. It's rare. And that's why it's so healing. Because listening is love in action. Listening is humility in practice. Listening is the bridge between me and you. But when you botch a hard conversation, it's usually because you're too focused on defending yourself instead of discovering what's underneath their words. And let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Defensiveness is the enemy of growth. Because defensiveness says, I already know. And when you already know, you can't learn. When you already know, you can't grow. Here's a picture for you. Imagine someone comes to you and says, I feel hurt because of what you said last night. And instead of listening, your brain immediately fires back, well, I didn't mean it like that. You're being too sensitive. You're overreacting. Sound familiar? That's defensiveness. And what happens in that moment? Their wall goes up. Their hurt gets buried even deeper. The conversation derails. Not because what they said wasn't valid, but because you didn't give it room to breathe. Now imagine instead, you took a breath. You paused. You leaned in and said, I didn't realize it came across that way. Tell me more about how you felt when I said that. Boom. Different energy. You didn't cave. You didn't abandon your perspective. You simply gave theirs a place at the table. And when someone feels their perspective is welcome, they're far more likely to welcome yours. Listening is not agreement. Let me repeat that because this is where people get tripped up. Listening is not agreement. You can hear someone without endorsing their viewpoint. You can validate someone's feelings without surrendering your truth. Validation simply means saying, I see you. I hear you. What you feel matters to me. That's it. And when you do that, you lower the temperature of the conversation. You take the air out of the balloon before it pops. The problem is, most of us are so afraid of being wrong, so afraid of losing ground, that we treat listening like weakness. We think if we give the other person too much room, they'll take advantage. They'll steamroll us. But that's not what happens. Listening isn't weakness, it's leadership. It's strength under control. Because it takes more strength to hold your tongue, to regulate your emotions, to stay curious, than it does to lash back with the first thought that hits your brain. You know who listens well? People who know they're secure. People who don't need to prove their worth in every sentence. People who aren't addicted to being right. And if you want to stop botching hard conversations, that's the posture you need to cultivate. Not a posture of proving, but a posture of presence. And presence shows up in really simple ways. Presence looks like turning off your phone, looking the other person in the eye, leaning forward, unclenching your jaw, loosening your arms, nodding, not in the fake, let me nod so you'll hurry up way, but in the real, I'm here with you way. Presence looks like saying what I'm hearing is and reflecting back their words, not to be robotic, but to make sure you really get it. Presence looks like asking, is there more you want to say? And then actually waiting for the answer. These are small actions, but they add up because what you're saying with your body language and your energy is, you matter. This matters. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to understand you. And when someone feels understood, defenses come down, tension lowers, honesty rises. The conversation you thought was going to blow up into a war suddenly turns into a bridge. But let's get practical, because I don't want this to just sound like theory. I want you to leave here with something you can actually use the next time you're in a tough conversation. Here's one tool: the pause. The pause is your best friend. Before you respond, before you explain, before you counter, you pause. You let their words hang in the air for a second. You give them the dignity of silence. And in that silence, you give yourself the chance to process instead of react. Another tool: ask before answering. When someone says something charged, instead of firing back with your take, ask them to go deeper. What did you mean by that? Can you help me understand where that's coming from? What does that look like for you? Questions disarm. Questions signal humility. Questions turn conflict into curiosity, and curiosity is what saves conversations from collapsing. One more tool: reflect feelings, not just words. If someone says, "I hate that you didn't show up," don't just repeat, "So you hate that I didn't show up." That's parroting. Instead, reflect the emotion underneath. "It sounds like you felt abandoned when I didn't show up." That hits different, because it shows you're not just hearing the noise, you're hearing the music underneath the noise. And that's where connection lives, in the feelings under the facts. When you feel anger, sadness, fear, frustration, that's your internal dashboard telling you, hey, something's off here. Pay attention. But what most of us do is we don't just notice the signal, we let the signal take over. Instead of saying, "Thank you, anger, I see you. Let's figure out what you're trying to tell me," we hand anger the mic and let it run the entire show. And anger's not a good public speaker. You see, emotions are powerful, but they're not always precise. Anger might tell you, "This hurts," but it doesn't always tell you why. Fear might tell you, "This feels unsafe," but it doesn't always give you the roadmap to safety. And when you let raw emotion run the conversation, you end up attacking the person instead of addressing the problem. You end up unloading instead of unpacking. I want you to think about a conversation like a house fire. When emotions are high, it's like the flames are spreading. If you rush in recklessly, you get burned. If you ignore it, the house burns down. But if you bring the right tools, water, control, patience, you can put the fire out before it destroys everything. That's what emotional regulation is in a hard conversation. It's fire management. But let's be honest, when you're in the middle of it, regulating your emotions feels impossible. Your heart's racing, your chest is tight, your brain is screaming, "Defend yourself! Attack back! Don't let them win!" And the last thing you want to do is pause. But here's the paradox: if you don't pause, you lose. Every time, because when your emotions escalate, clarity evaporates. And without clarity, you say things you regret. So how do you regulate in the heat of the moment? Let me give you some practical tools. Number one, breathe. And I don't mean the shallow, I'm kind of breathing because I'm alive kind of breath. I mean the deep, deliberate, intentional breath that slows your nervous system down. When you take a deep breath in, hold it, and release it slowly, you're sending a signal to your body that says, "I'm safe." And when your body feels safe, your brain can re-engage. You can think again. You can choose your words instead of letting them choose you. Number two, name the feeling. This one's huge. When you say out loud, or even to yourself, "I'm angry," or "I feel dismissed," or "I'm embarrassed," you're actually calming the emotional storm. Neuroscientists call this labeling. It takes the raw, chaotic energy of an emotion and turns it into language. And the moment you put language to it, the intensity drops, because now you're not just swimming in it, you're observing it. You're saying, "This is what's happening to me," instead of "I am this emotion." That distance gives you power. Number three, buy yourself time. You don't have to respond immediately. Let me say that again, because some of you live your whole life believing you have to fire back instantly. You don't have to respond right away. It's okay to say, "I need a minute to process this." It's okay to say, "Can we circle back to this tomorrow? I want to think before I answer." That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Because you can't unsay words. Once they're out, and time gives you the chance to say them right instead of just saying them fast. Number 4, ground yourself in the bigger picture. Ask yourself, what's the real goal of this conversation? Is the goal to win? Is it to score points? Is it to humiliate the other person? Or is it to solve a problem, to repair a relationship, to move forward? Because if it's the latter, and let's be honest, deep down it almost always is, then letting your emotions run wild only pushes you further from that goal. When you zoom out and remind yourself of the bigger picture, you gain perspective, and perspective takes the edge off. Now let's talk about what happens when you don't regulate, because maybe you're thinking, yeah, Jefferson, I get it, but sometimes people need to hear my anger. Sometimes they need to see I'm serious. And you're right. Anger can be a motivator, but unregulated anger rarely communicates what you want it to. Instead of, this matters to me, it communicates, you don't matter to me. Instead of, I need you to hear me, it communicates, I want to hurt you. And when that's the message, the other person stops listening. They stop caring about the content of your words and start reacting to the sting of your delivery. It's like trying to deliver a gift by setting the wrapping paper on fire. Nobody's going to appreciate the gift because all they can see is the flames. And that's what unregulated emotion does. It burns the bridge before you can even cross it. Now, let me clear something up. Regulating your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them. It doesn't mean stuffing them down, pretending they're not there, or putting on a fake calm face while you're boiling inside. Suppression is just delayed explosion. Regulation is different. Regulation says, I acknowledge what I feel. I honor it, but I choose how to express it in a way that helps, not hurts. Now, some of you are thinking, but Jefferson, I tried being calm. I tried saying it nice. They didn't listen. And I hear you. But let me ask you, did you stay consistent? Because a single kind conversation won't undo years of harsh ones. A single calm conversation won't erase a reputation for being defensive. People need to see that the new way you communicate is not a tactic, it's a habit. They need to trust that when you sit down to talk, it won't turn into a war zone. And that takes consistency. Others of you are thinking, but what if they're the hostile one? What if I'm calm, but they're yelling, cussing, slamming doors? Here's what I'll tell you, you cannot control their hostility. You can only control yours. And sometimes your calm becomes contagious. Sometimes your tone becomes the thermostat for the entire conversation. And if it doesn't, if they choose hostility no matter what, then you have the clarity to set boundaries. But at least you'll know you didn't botch it by matching fire with fire. Here's what I've learned after years of watching people struggle through hard conversations. People rarely remember every word you said. They remember how you made them feel. If your honesty makes them feel belittled, they'll reject it. If your honesty makes them feel seen, they'll consider it. If your honesty makes them feel respected, they'll respect you back, even if they disagree with you. The difference between hostility and honesty is this: hostility is about winning, honesty is about connecting. Hostility says, I'm above you. Honesty says, I'm with you. Hostility says, you're the problem. Honesty says, why have a problem? One drives people apart, the other pulls them together. And if you can master that distinction, if you can be honest without being hostile, you will transform every hard conversation in your life. You'll go from botching them to building through them. You'll go from breaking trust to strengthening it. You'll go from being someone people avoid to being someone people seek out when they need truth wrapped in care. Because honesty is not about speaking your mind, it's about stewarding your words. It's about wielding truth like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. It's about cutting to heal, not cutting to wound. And when you understand that, when you discipline yourself to speak with both courage and compassion, you stop botching conversations. You start leading them. And isn't that what you really want? To stop leaving conversations with regret. To stop replaying them in your head at 2 a.m. thinking, I could have said that better. To stop damaging relationships that matter to you simply because you couldn't separate honesty from hostility. You don't want to just win conversations. You want to win people. You want to walk away knowing you honored yourself, honored them, and honored the relationship. And that starts with choosing honesty over hostility every single time. So here's my challenge to you: the next time you're tempted to snap, to lash out, to let frustration speak louder than respect, pause. Ask yourself, what's my real goal here? Do I want to crush them, or do I want to connect with them? And if connection is the goal, adjust your delivery, soften your tone. Choose your timing, check your intent. Because the goal of a hard conversation is not to leave the other person bleeding. It's to leave both of you better than when you started. And if you can do that, if you can tell the truth in a way that heals instead of hurts, then you won't just stop botching hard conversations. You'll start transforming them.